Paul, it's absolutely lovely to chat with you today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's kind of get straight into it with Violence Unimagined. So, what was kind of the starting point? When did you know that this was kind of like time to start the new record?
Well, we finished the touring for Red Before Black, I guess, at the end of 2019. So I remember when we finished the tour, I think we had maybe one song already written. And then it was just a matter of course, writing the rest of them and practicing and just going full bore at, getting prepared here for our April studio time here. So of course, most early 2020 was spent doing that up until we hit the studio in mid-April.
Okay. So, obviously, with that in mind, Eric is now on guitar. I was wondering, what was it? What did he kind of bring to the fold?
Well, I mean, he's very a workaholic. I mean, he's a great worker. He's a very positive person.
Mhm.
I mean, and he brought his songs, his way of writing Cannibal Corpse songs, which has obviously never been done before. He contributed 3 songs to the new record, musically and lyrically. So in that way, we have Eric involved with Cannibal in this sense, as opposed to him, right, just always being a producer and being a good friend of ours, of course. So he definitely added his own element to Cannibal now, and it'll be interesting and exciting to see what the fans' reactions are to his songs, and because of course they're Eric, and he's writing in a Cannibal sense, which he's never had to do before. So it was different for him. So it's cool to have his different take on it, his element now.
I think it's really cool, like, having listened to all of the songs, I was trying to kind of like pick out which one might have been his. And I think there's like you say, there's definitely an element of Eric in there, but it's very much Cannibal Corpse at the same time.
Right. Well, and I think that was important. Eric, obviously he's used to writing his style with Hate Eternal. I mean, that's what he's been doing for so long. And,
Mhm.
and then maybe, Morbid Angel and all that when he was writing a little bit back then. But so this is completely obviously different, but he's been around us long enough and he knows our style and he knows what needs to get done to make a Cannibal sounding song. So I think he did a great job. Right. Because I think most people might pick it out, but then maybe not, But that's good because it needs to be Cannibal in the end, and I think the whole album is pure Cannibal Corpse. So.
So, what would you say, with the songs that he had, was that very much kind of like you guys sort of just said, you go off, do your own thing, or did he kind of present those songs to you, or?
He actually just kind of went on his own and go, hey, I know he knows what to do here. So I guess he presented them to us. And if we really thought something was not what we wanted it to be, that we would have said something. But I mean, we knew he was going to do great, and we were going to like what he did. So basically the 3 songs that he presented to us are what you're hearing on the record. So you're basically just having to learn it, which is kind of cool, and it gives it maybe makes me do things differently than I would have came up with. And Eric did the same thing. It was kind of, here's my songs, and so I got to basically learn what he's what he came up with drum wise and all that. So, but yeah, it was cool, like that he felt confident enough to just go, man, I think you guys are going to like what I got here, and I like it. So here you go, and we went with it. So
That's awesome. So, did he kind of bring a different perspective lyrically as well?
A little bit. I mean, he wrote the 3 lyrically, so I think his 2. He wrote Ritual Annihilation and Over Torture, and those are typical, more Cannibal, just typical in your face Cannibal songs.
Mhm.
So when you're going to read the lyrics to those, they're like, okay, it's pretty much us. Now
Yeah.
Condemnation Contagion he wrote, and that was his take on kind of the pandemic a little bit here,
Oh,
like he
really?
was thinking, right. So he was kind of like, this is a horrific thing that's happening and it's pretty extreme and everything. So he wanted to kind of touch on that. So maybe that was a little bit of a different thing, but yeah, that would be the one that was, maybe slightly different than what we normally would do.
Kind of looking at drums in particular, I feel like rhythmically, this is maybe one of the trickiest albums you guys have ever tracked.
You are correct on that. I mean, there's some crazy stuff going on there, I mean, it was like, wow, it really took me to my limits, physically and mentally,
Yeah.
I mean, having to learn some of this stuff from what these guys wrote, was just like, it was insane, I had to work extra hard. I mean, I've been really trying to push myself, of course, in the drumming department in the last few years. And, but mentally it was really tough, so, but, I think it turned out great, I mean, I think it's noticeable, of course, when you hear the record that, we've stepped it up in a lot of ways and especially in the drumming. So, but it nearly killed me. So
What would you say was your most difficult part to track?
it was learning Cerements of the Flayed and Slowly Sawn, two of Alex's songs. They were just so mind-bending to me. I mean, it was just like, it took me forever to fully grasp and to get wrap my head around and to be able to play the songs, because they're really not physically demanding. It was just very mental.
And there's lots of little tricky small dynamics in those songs, I think, isn't
Yes,
it?
exactly. Right. Yeah. The timings of those songs, very tricky,
Yeah.
so it took a long time to grasp and to be able to play them fluently, because like getting back to what I said earlier, it's not stuff that I would have probably done myself, and I'm glad that, it makes a more dynamic record. Hey, if Alex or Eric's going to write drum beats or patterns, fine, because then it just, it's going to make it that much better, because it's something that I wouldn't have done, as long as it's something I can play, I guess. And it ends up being what I can play, but it just might take a little longer to get to that point. So,
So with that in mind, this is your 15th album. How do you keep lyrical concepts and these themes so fresh after all these years?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, it seems like it'd be tough, right? Because we're writing about obviously a lot of the same subjects, There's always a few that are a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, I look at myself, obviously I got to go with me writing the lyrics. I only wrote 2 on this record, which is minimal for me. I think the last time I only wrote 2 songs was Evisceration Plague, I believe I wrote 2 lyrically. And then I've wrote a lot since then with Torture and Skeletal Domain, Red Before Black, so I felt that, okay, well, I'm only writing 2, so I guess I can, I'm not running thin, I guess, in a sense, and the one I wrote for this record, Murderous Rampage. Well, what's Murderous Rampage? Well, that's a typical Cannibal song about, right, somebody killing people, whoa, that's never been done, right? So it's just coming up with different phrases, different word combinations, different terms, a little bit maybe of a different idea than you did the last time. So I know, but you would think it'd be getting a lot harder, but for some reason it just seems to always flow. Violence reimagined, immoral praise, final executions, savagery unleashed.
Kind of carrying on from that, what would you say is your kind of most brutal death or lyric on Violence Unimagined, like of the album as a whole?
Well, like I said, I only wrote 2 songs. So I wrote Murderous Rampage and I wrote Cerements of the Flayed, and that's an Alex song. And it was cool to write an Alex song because I haven't collaborated on any of his material in 20 years. The last Alex, we were talking about it. And the last song I wrote for Alex was Blowtorch Slaughter 20 years ago on Bloodthirst,
Wow.
So it was cool to write lyrics to his song, but he came up with the title, and he had the concept basically. So I already had a good start on that. But I think in Cerements of the Flayed, I think I got some pretty cool stuff in there. The very first line of Cerements of the Flayed, I thought it was pretty brutal, pretty intense. So
like from what I got, is it someone being buried by human skin?
that's right. That's it. I think it's, because that's the whole concept of the song, is being buried alive. Like basically the guy's skin is, his skin is peeled, and he's buried in someone else's skin, and he's buried alive, but then the guy doesn't die. So he's kind of like suffering, and then he ends up living through this ordeal. Just the whole concept of the song was pretty cool and different a little bit for us. So I'm pretty proud of the way that turned out.
Of course, it wouldn't be a Cannibal Corpse album without the artwork. So I was going to say, like, when you guys come up with the idea of the artwork, I don't know if it's all of you guys, or if you kind of give an idea to Vince or something like that, but do you ever kind of think, like, maybe this time we went a little bit too far?
Well, I mean, we wanted to go brutal. I mean, what happened first, of course, is coming up with Violence Unimagined. With a name like that, with Violence Unimagined, well, what's this going to be about? I mean, it's got to be pretty brutal here. We're talking some unimaginable violence here, right? So I had no idea. None of us had an idea of what it was going to look like. So this was one that we gave to Vince. We go, hey, Vince, we're calling it this. What do you got? Come up with your concepts here now. But it needed to be brutal. It needed to be intense. I mean, really, at first it was kind of like, we weren't sure about having the baby, in the cover, and then was like, man, we have to. We're Cannibal Corpse here. This has got to be brutal. This has to be sheer brutality here, and make people go, oh my gosh, that's just disgusting. That is just like not right,
Absolutely. I think there's almost like a little nod to Butchered at Birth in there as well. With the
definitely. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I think it's behind Butchered. I think this is our second most intense cover. But Butchered's always going to win the battle. I mean, there's going to be nothing more crazier than that. I don't think ever, especially from us. But this definitely is a very close second.
It's almost unfair to the younger bands that you guys are still this good 15 albums in. Like,
we're very lucky for sure, and we're very fortunate and I'm glad you feel that way. I mean, yeah, it's crazy to think we've been around 32 years now, and we're arguably is more popular than we ever have, and we're on top of our game. I mean, that's important. We're not going through the motions. We're releasing quality, which is what you want to do. You never want to, just feel like, we're doing it just because we have to. And, no, we love to do it. And I think it's apparent in, the music that we put out. And, this record is something, man.
Well, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man.
It's awesome, man. Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you like it. And it was fun doing the interview. I appreciate that too. So awesome, man.